Hello, I'm a tabletop hobbyist and I'm about to go to a tournament with no practice. Let's see how it goes! It went surprisingly well, because, I'm not gonna lie, soup is crazy. My list was an Imperial Guard battalion with 5 troops, a unit of scions, a command squad, and a Leman Russ, 2 armored sentinels with Lascannons, tank commander Leman Russ with multi-melta Lascannon and the siege cannon, and a company commander with the Master of Command relic, Warlord trait, so that he could give out 3 orders every turn and, you know, do all the good stuff that I needed to be done in the list. So my guard detachment was my play the game detachment. My Lord of War was a Baneblade. Praise it, you know. And my patrol, arguably the thing that did the most work in my list, the Custodes patrol. There I had a shield captain on bike who was the tip of the spear. I had a shield captain on foot, a guard squad, and 3 Virtus Praetors, because obviously I had 3. Don't know why I really specified that number, but anyway, this was my list, and I just never got to practice with it at any point before the tournament. Like, I never played any games of 40k for like a month, you know? Well, I got to practice with a version of the list, but it was completely different from what it is now. Can't even say they're similar, honestly. So, what went wrong in game 1? A lot went wrong. I forgot my orders because I was just bloodthirsty. I was like, I got a Baneblade. I can't wait to shoot it. My opponent was a Knights player, and I'm not even really going to get into the score or anything. I'm just going to tell you, it wasn't a good game. I'm going to show you a couple videos of game state right now, and we'll talk them out. So here we have the start of the game. You can see the deployment zones, you can see where his Knights are set up, how my units are set up, and this is probably my best part, because we roll off to see who goes first after this, and the Knights player wins. So he immediately cripples my Baneblade with a decisive shot, doing 15 wounds from that big ol' Knight in the back. I respond by killing an Armiger and a smaller Knight, the melee Knight, the General Knight, but it's just not enough. There's just more Knights coming at me, and they're just getting closer, and I don't have anything that can really just take it down. Like, once that Baneblade went down, I was like, oh. It wasn't going good. So then I fire my Lascannons, and I fire my Lascannons and multi-meltas at whatever I can, and I'm just bouncing. The Custodians are trying to kill things in combat, but they can't. They're just bouncing, and everything is going poorly. My screens are falling apart because I forget to move them, which would have helped so much. This game would have been so much better if I had remembered my orders. Because I didn't even really do my tank orders. I hardly did my psychic phase because I had an astropath that I just forgot about because I put him like behind the Baneblade, and that made him like impossible for me to remember. It was a time. Whew. Whew. The final score was 91-23, and that's with 10 points for being painted. It was rough, y'all. So let's get into game 2. With my game quickly ended, I walked around the game store and looked at a couple of other tables to see how other people were doing. And then I went home and recorded some thoughts while I ate. Take it away, past me. Just finished round 1. Went home to get some nosh, gotta get a little bit of food. And, didn't go very well. Did not play very well at all. Forgot a lot of my rules. But, round 2, I think we got something. I'm gonna work real hard to remember things and actually do stuff this time. So let's go! Game 2. Abandoned Sanctuaries. This time my opponent is Blood Angels and he has no Lord of Wars, so I'm over here like, dang. This may be a clean sweep. Just, the Baneblade's gonna charge. The Baneblade's gonna charge, because, Blood Angels, Baneblade, gotta charge a Baneblade into my Blood Angels. Well, against Blood Angels, not my Blood Angels. They're my opponent Blood Angels. Anyway, here's a picture of the deployment and start of round 1. Wow. Now, you can see here that my Baneblade is pretty much uncontested on one side. I have a Leman Russ in the corner, ready to fire at that Leviathan Dreadnought. And I have a Redemptor Dreadnought that is soon to come at me. Keep an eye on that Redemptor Dreadnought, because those things have a habit of just not dying. I hardly got any videos of round 2 because of how much of a game it was. And unfortunately, I won in this situation because of dice down and the fact that we ran out of time. The final score was 45 to 43, and that's incredibly close because I feel as though if we kept going at that rate, I was almost out of assets. Like, it was scary, but I finally killed the Redemptor Dreadnought just before Dice Down happened, so he only had infantry squads left, but they were Stalker Bolter armed infantry squads, so I don't know. Would have been interesting. My Baneblade died to Terminators in a Judiciar, but the Baneblade killed the Judiciar before the Terminators killed the Baneblade by charging into him. Whoop whoop. The Custodian Guard I played much better this time around, but also the normal guard I played much better by remembering to move, and gaining as much board control as possible, so that way he would have to kill me. Have to kill me in order to score any points, because I would just be like, U10, go! Move! U10, go! Move! I just wanted to capture everything and make plays for the center of the board. One of my favorite moments of this game was when I moved a unit of guardsmen to contest against his captain and librarian, because I had just cleared out a squad of intercessors down to one man, so those two were open to be shot at. And the captain didn't die, lived on 1 wound, but the librarian was no more, so he stopped getting points for warp ritual. He wasn't getting any points for direct assault or relentless assault, whatever the Blood Angels thing is, because I was able to screen him out of my deployment zone. And, it was some good play. I'm very proud of myself for it. But again, I do want to know how the game would have ended. It would have been close. It would have been outrageously close. But that is just kind of a theme that I went through throughout the day. Now, after this game, I looked at my pairings, and I went, there is no way that this is happening again. My greatest enemy, my ancient foe from when I first started doing competitive 40k, arrived. The Thunderhawk gunship and Mike were back. This was an ancient rivalry, you see, because I had gone up against Mike in my first game of Warhammer 40k at a RTT. So he was like, "Oh, it's you," and I'm like, "It is me. This is about to be a battle for the ages," and it was. Though our lifts were at 2 different sides of the spectrum. On his side, Thunderhawk gunship and like 18 Blade Guard, an Apothecary on bike, a Chaplain, and 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, one with plasma, the other one also with plasma, I'm pretty sure. And it was just a time and a half. I roll the dice, and I lose on who gets to choose deployment zone. So he chooses, he drops his first model, the Thunderhawk. Then he drops his next couple models as we alternate. And I'm just left dropping things. And I decide to put everything in the front because it's the last game of the day. We're both tired and we want to go home because a lot of 40k will do that to you in a day. But we also want a good game. So I put everything basically right on my table quarter because we're playing Death and Zeal. So there's an 18-inch circle in the middle. So it's going to be ripping and roaring real quick. We roll the dice. I am selected to go first by the dice gods. I immediately take my custodians on bikes and I go woof, and launch them across the board because I want to try and get as much killing potential as I can. I move them into the table quarter to capture an objective. I move up guardsmen behind them in order to capture it in the next turn because I know that there's a Redemptor Dreadnought on another side of the wall that is coming at me soon. I need to deny as much of the board as possible. And so move, and mastering my movement phase are critical because while he has a low model count, he's a very good player. He's a very killy list. And, I just don't want him to beat me. So I'm just moving. I'm organizing. I'm holding back some custodians because I need to make sure I have that counter punch for those Blade Guard veteran. And so, my turn 1, I fire everything at the Thunderhawk because I want it to be crippled, die, and drop everything, so that way they have to foot slog it. But it's a good thing that this doesn't work out because, firing at a Thunderhawk, it's -1 to hit. It's like impossible for guard. So I'm like, let's try. Let's see what we can do. Now, my turn 1, relatively uneventful. I get onto the center point, and that's it. His turn 1, he counterpunches me. He moves the Thunderhawk up. He has the dudes get out and all that. He moves up the Apothecary to come and support his boys in the middle because, of course, we're just going to fight over the center because it's Death and Zeal. We got that center objective, and you get points for controlling it. You get points for killing things off of objectives. It's a very interesting time. So, I don't want to toot my own horn, but the skill in which I used my Virtus Praetors was something that I was not expecting from myself. I found I was able to use the consolidation of them to grab his home objective from charging his Redemptor Dreadnought, but also into his Blade Guard veterans that had been dropped out earlier. And those Custodian Guard really held down the center board very well because they're so slippery and hard to kill. It was just a traffic jam in the middle, and eventually, when it had been cleared, it was too late because it did get cleared out eventually. And once that traffic jam got cleared out, my Baneblade was already dead. My tanks were dead. I was running on empty because I only had Sentinels left, and they were trying to blow up Dreadnoughts, and it just wasn't working at all. So I started running away from objectives because he'd have to come and catch me in order to take them away. So, at the end of the game, 75 to 72 in my favor. Full game. Oh, my heart. It was crazy. Another thing that happened at this tournament, though, was the Lord of War competition. So I'm going to show you all those Lord of Wars, and we're going to see who eventually won it all. And, yeah. Let's get into it. Also, let's take a look at a couple of the other battles that were going on while I was playing 40k. He's counting ominously. Well, one's obviously Alberia.
Harpoon,